First up, it will be the Turkish team. Abuke Aktuna, Yasemin Anagosh, and Gulnaz Koskin. Pretty good lineup.
Sure is.
As you can see, the umbrellas are out. Now, the light rain we saw earlier on today didn't really affect the compound archers, but Chef, it's coming down pretty hard now.
Yeah, and it's coming down even harder every minute, I feel. So I think they might have adjusted their side a little, and if not, they maybe should have.
Yeah, so adjusting the sight will... The archers tend to find that there's the Turkish spectators looking on, the compound archers who shot earlier on today, but sometimes the arrows go a little low.
Yeah, so because they have to travel through the raindrops, and the raindrops will affect the flight of the arrow, they normally tend to go a little lower.
So here are the Italians. Tatiana Andreoli, Lucia Boari, and Vanessa Landi. So shooting over 70 meters here, so a little longer than the compound archers shoot, and there's no mechanics helping them with the bow weight, and that can make a bit more challenging. But this is the Olympic discipline, Chef.
It is, yeah. Pretty much all of the recurve shooting takes place at 70 meters on a 122 centimeter target. So it's pretty much 1.5 times as big as the compound target, and it's also pretty much 1.5 times the distance. So it's comparable, but not quite the same.
We're waiting for the line judge to declare the range safe to shoot. So 3 archers per team, and we work on a set system in recurve archery, not the accumulative score that we see in compound archery, so that means you can have a wobble and still recover.
Yeah.
So Turkey will shoot first.
6 to start with. Not the ideal start of your competition.
Sırtını gevşetme Büşra. Temiz bırakış.
That's better.
10, Turcja.
Halbuki girmiyorsun değil mi? Girmiyorsun. Tempolu. Sol aşağıda iyiydi.
Our 2 going off to the left. 23 out of a possible 30. Hard to tell at this stage what effect that 6 and 7 will have. Have to see how Italy shoot their first 3 arrows.
It's a good shot, especially in these circumstances and with the score that Turkey has already. Shooting 9s is perfectly fine.
Ottimo, brava. 9 alto, tutti e 2 alto, ragazzi.
9, Włochy.
Allora. Okay, 9 alto.
Well, they're all just a little high.
I think, yeah. So they might have tried to react to the rain and adjusted their sight, but misjudged the amount. But they get away with it because of the not very good shots of Turkey at the beginning.
Well, let's see how the Turkish team respond. The 8, as you can see from Italy, the 3rd arrow has an asterisk up against it, which means that it will go to a measure, and the target judge will go down and check that is an 8 or a 9.
Temiz bırakış. Aşağıda 8.
8, Turkey.
So rain is not only affecting the arrows, but it will also make your hand slip in your grip if you don't have proper hand placement, or if you just have a slippery grip. And also it will make your fingers on your tab
Aşağıda
slip a bit.
8.
Your finger tab is the piece of leather that you have in your hand. And the leather will also soak up water if you don't keep it completely dry. So the feeling of your shot will pretty much go to dust. So you have to trust in your instincts and just shoot
7 alto destra.
and not think about what it feels like, because the feeling in the rain will differ from the feeling in the dry.
The conditions the same for both teams, and at the moment it's the Italians just edging this first set.
Ottimo, 10, brava.
That's a good shot there.
Walking.
So they should comfortably take this set. If you have a higher score at the end of a set, you get 2 set points, and the target here for the teams is 5 points. Level on points, and at the end of the set,
Definitely
you
good
share
enough.
it.
Buona
There you
10.
go.
Ok.
So a little bit of a sloppy start from the Turkish team, but as I said at the top of the program, a set system allows for recovery
Yeah,
from one
it does.
set to the next. You can have a dodgy couple of arrows and put it behind you and move on to the next set.
Yeah. Which also makes it even more of a mental game, because if you get really far behind in a cumulative match, it's pretty much you're bound to give up. But in set system, you have to keep fighting until the very end. Like the saying goes, it ain't over till the fat lady sings.
Well, we didn't see much communication between the teams in the compound discipline, but it was slightly different conditions there. It wasn't raining nearly as heavily as it is now, but it's quite important to have good communication with your team.
It is, yeah. So you can tell your team what you think the effect was on the arrow, and your teammates can adjust to that.
And of course, be honest when you've made the mistake.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they have to communicate, because it will be an awkward silence if you stand so close under the umbrella. You don't talk to each other at all.
Well, as you said, Chef, it's crucial they do try and stay as dry as possible, especially with the shooting arm.
Come normale, eh? Ok.
Another reason the arrows might go low is that the string on your bow might catch some water, which makes it a little heavier, and then it will be a little slower, which will result in your arrows going lower. But so far we haven't seen too many arrows go low because of the rain, I think.
Kısa çizgiye dikkat et. Aybüke çıksın.
Well, one of the most fascinating things about this sport is that not just the distance that the arrow travels laterally straight down the range, 70 metres, we know that is, but the arc it takes can be up to 10.5 metres.
Yeah.
Which is quite incredible that these elite athletes are hitting something the size of an apple on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
Sırtını gevşetme Büşra. Temiz bırakışı yap. Sol aşağıda 7.
7, Turcja. 7.
Geriye doğru. Güçlü gel.
These overhead shots are always really cool, especially to look at the technique of archers.
9 aşağı.
9, Turcja.
So they've laid down a better marker this time, the Turkish team. First 3 arrows shot out of 26 out of 30.
Ancora alto destra.
7, Italy. 7, Włochy.
I think that's her second arrow that hits top right 7. She seemed a bit annoyed by it, but that doesn't help you in a situation like this.
Buona 10.
She sure has the
10,
middle
Italy.
center.
10, Włochy.
Tenete forte.
It's a chance for a mini advantage here, but a 10 required.
Brava, quasi 10.
We'll get to 9, so we're all level halfway through the second set.
Włochy. 9.
So also for Italy, this makes the game a little more mental, being a set system, because the first end they got 2 points instead of the 6 points that they would have in a cumulative score. So if Turkey wins this set by 1 point, they're squared, even though
they've scored less points overall. Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic in the sport. As you can see, that rain coming down pretty hard now.
It's getting worse and worse.
And you can see the communication between the teammates.
Turcja 8.
The Italians all huddled underneath that umbrella.
Yeah, that would be a good photo. It's a good shot. So normally I would say a 52 is a bit low, but with this amount of rain, I think it's not that bad.
And it's certainly a good recovery from the first set for the Turkish team. Sings high and right. So Landy.
She has no idea what's going on, as it seems. She walked back from the line and she clearly doesn't understand flights there. That's an 8, so this set will automatically go to Turkey.
Yeah, no chance of recovery here, but still an important shot. Needs to keep her sights in, and that's a nice 9. But as Chef says, Turkey have stolen the second set and shot much better than in the first set, and we're all level on 2 set points apiece. Now, we talked about the rain, but the temperature also is it's noticeably dropped since this morning.
Yeah, and the rain will also take some of your body temperature. So your body temperature will go down and you try to keep warm. You see that they're playing with their fingers a little and trying to keep them warm. Because if you have cold fingers, everything stiffens up a little and you cannot have a proper release, at least in my experience. So you try to keep your hands warm, keep everything as dry as possible, but most of all, don't freak out if it's not dry anymore, because it's still possible to shoot well. It's just a weird feeling. So don't freak out, just try your best to hit the middle still.
But with so many different components, as you talked about the leather strap, and with so many all these different components, you said about the water and the moisture affecting this bowstring, which is quite incredible when you think of it. When you start breaking the sport down into that kind of detail, with so many of those components, does luck start to play a part in archery when it's wet?
Well, eventually it will still come down to skill, and there is a bit of luck with weather. Being that sometimes your opponent will have better weather or worse weather, but eventually you still have to do your thing. And the nice thing about recurve shooting is that you can just try to do your technique as good as possible, like you do thousands of times a month.
Yeah.
And then, if you do it consistently, it will still hit the middle.
We'll start with the third set here in the women's recurve team event. Turkey facing Italy. They're all squaring, that's a lovely shot there.
Turcja 10.
Güçlü bırakışı yap Büşra.
Well, they had a wobble at the start, but I have to say, momentum's ever so slightly with the Turkish team, and that's another 10.
Turcja 10.
Anything on the line gets marked at the higher score in archery.
Bravo.
Not the best shot, but it still hit 9.
So why do you say, for someone completely new to the sport, how can you say that's not the best shot?
Well, I'm comparing it to her previous shots because every archer has their own technique, so it's difficult to say that's a bad shot or that's a good shot. But compared to her other shots, the release was a bit off. So the release went a bit more forward than the other arrows, and it was a bit slower. And I think that's one of the reasons that the arrow is low 9 instead of,
instead of better.
Yeah.
10, brava.
Both teams now starting to shoot closer to the centre.
Włochy 10.
Vanessa Landi is still hitting right, but at least her height is good now. So she has something to build on. There you
Ok,
go.
brava,
Beautiful
buona.
stuff. For 27, usually a pretty good score, but Turkey only dropped a single point in the first half of the third set, and they have a big chance here of going 2 set points up.
It's hard to see on TV, but it's still getting worse. The rain is still getting worse.
Yeah, it's absolutely tipping down there. It's not affecting the Turkish athletes as much as it is the Italians at the moment.
Beautiful shot from above.
Güzel gelsin.
Turcja 9.
So to go back to the release, what I was on about before is you want to try to keep pulling even though the clicker has gone. So there's a little metallic or a little metal plate that clicks when you are done pulling your bow.
9.
And then you can shoot, but you still have to pull, so you don't stop pulling, but you pull through the string to get a crisp and nice release. If you stop pulling when the clicker goes, you release forward and then your arrow will hit low.
8, basso, destra.
Very good description of the finer points of the technique. You can see there that the water's already gathering on these cobbled streets.
And with that 8 from Italy, I think Turkey is getting this set again.
They can't,
No matter what the scores
9
will be.
basso.
they can't get to that 56 target set by the Turks. So Italy started much the better team, but have well, they've wavered a little bit in this tricky conditions here in southwest Poland.
9 sinistra, buona.
Important arrows there though. Keep the sights in. And so Turkey come from behind. They technically only need a single set point now, so a draw on score in the next set would be enough to see Turkey crown the recurve women's team at European champions. And they certainly look a little bit more relaxed than the
They do now,
Italians.
In the beginning they were struggling to find the middle, but now that they do, it seems like they have calmed down a bit.
Yeah, they've honed in on it. You can see just how wet the conditions are as the Italians are drying off their equipment. Having to dry the arrows off as well. Andrioli there shaking them out. Not sure how much drier they'll be because she's shaking them out into the pouring rain. It's become very, very damp here now.
You do want all of the difference you can make. So if you can shake it off a little bit, and the couple drops that you'll collect while shaking it, I think you take for granted.
Dai Vane, dai.
And they'll continue to shoot through this. The only time they would consider stopping play is lightning. Just if there's lightning present, obviously it's dangerous for the archers.
Yeah, you're effectively holding like a lightning catcher.
A lightning rod, yeah. Especially that one. That's
8 alto.
it's almost entirely made of metal.
Włochy 8.
So the trailing team, Italy, shoot first for the first time in the fourth set, this gold medal match.
9 sinistra.
It's a solo at 9.
Bene ragazzi.
Should be happy with a good 9 now.
9. Włochy.
Well, you can see the stabilizer on the front of the bow there.
10,
Coming in
brava.
water. What a brilliant shot that is, though.
10. Włochy.
Ragazzi, prima entro le linee di tiro, caccia un po' l'acqua.
Dirsek geriye doğru. Sarıda kal. Dinamik gelsin. Devam et. 9 aşağıda.
There was a little bit of a wobble on the release, but still hit a 9.
9.
Güçlü gelsin Büşra. Güçlü bırakışı yap, temiz olsun. Sol aşağıdaydı. Sola.
7, Turcja.
Biraz da
This
aşağıya.
gives Italy a little bit of a perspective to still get back in the competition and maybe get a shoot off out of it.
Tempolu Yaso. 10, bravo.
Well, a good recovery there. But Turkey trail by 1. Italy 3 arrows to try and score more points than Turkey can get.
8 basso, vicino. Ai dati.
8, Włoch.
Seems like Vanessa is struggling the most of all 6 archers to find the middle.
8 basso.
That fifth arrow following the fourth one,
Diversity.
dropping down into the 8. Well,
6, Włochy.
maximum possible here of 56 for Turkey.
Solumuz sabit kaybol.
So they have
Dinamik gel,
room
sen
to
geriye
maneuver
doğru.
here.
Sarıda kal. Devam et. Devam
It's
et.
a long hold.
It's in the 9.
Works out.
Turcja 9.
You see that Yasemin is releasing her bow a little bit so she gets the water out of her string and from her limbs.
Çizgiyi tut. Aynı yerde.
Still
7,
looking
Turcja.
very strong there despite that 7.
Tempolu Yaso.
Starting to see some of the arrows drift over to the left.
Güçlü gelsin.
She needs a 7. She gets an 8, which is enough.
Well, there you go. The
European
fourth
champion.
set goes to Turkey and they win the gold medal match over Italy, 6 set points to 2, and become the European champions of the Recurve women's team event here in Poland. Chef, an interesting match there. The Italians started much better.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of nerves in the Turkish team at the start.
Might be, or just the fact that they needed to get used to the circumstances. Because really, it started raining just before the match. So I think when they were shooting on the practice field, it wasn't raining as much. So basically, they've been practicing in the semi-dry conditions. And then they get in the bus, and the moment they get out the bus, it's pouring down.
Yeah.
So I can imagine that you need to get into the match a little.
Yeah, it's very unique for this event because we're right in the heart of this fairy tale city in Poland. The warm-up area is, as Chef says, a bus ride away. Well, Italy will be disappointed not to score their first gold medal of the afternoon session here, but they will have 2 more shots at Team Gold.
Yeah.
With Italy appearing in both the men's Recurve team event and the mixed team as well. You see just how bad the conditions are for them. So, Chef, we often talk about wind when we're talking about archery because obviously that plays a big factor in the flight of the arrow.
Yeah.
As a top international archer yourself, would you take rain over wind any day?
I think I would be favoring wind in this question. Because wind doesn't make you cold and it doesn't make you swell your fingers and it doesn't make you soak up water in your tab, and it's difficult to say the least, but I think rain just blurs all the feel away, and that's difficult as an archer who does mainly, pretty much everything I do is based on